you said from day one, Liam, and I must say I agreed with you strongly that Jose Mourinho was a bad fit for Manchester United because of the way he's always liked to play the game. Is such stark contrast to the way Manchester United traditionally have wanted to play it, and even demanded that they play, attacking, offensive football, and that was Ferguson. You could say a lot of things about him, but his teams always went out and tried to play, and he looked to sign players who could play.
Well, that's right, and I think probably there are maybe 3 or 4 clubs in European football who have that tradition, and that tradition comes first. I'd put Real Madrid up there, I'd put Barcelona up there, and maybe Bayern Munich along with Manchester United. The club has an ethos, has a history, started by Matt Busby, in the early 50s, and carried on by Ferguson in a big way. Now, in between, there were good managers as well. After Fergie, they had a real problem. David Moyes wasn't successful. They changed him very quickly. Van Gaal was supposed to be the man, to bring back this kind of football, this winning football. He made a mess of it. But then to bring Mourinho in, who was no real track record in playing attractive football, I think was a big mistake. I think when he won at Chelsea, he won it in a very pragmatic way, in a very practical way. Yes, they scored a lot of goals, but mainly on the break. And he wasn't up against the standard of opposition that Manchester City provide now in the Premier League. So he doesn't fit the history of the club, Eamon. That was my point.
Yeah, and I mean,
the likes of Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson, must have had serious doubts when Ed Woodward wanted to take him.
Yeah,
and one of the things that he did straight away, and it was a bit of an insult to Ferguson, was how much, 80-90 million pounds.
Yeah,
when Fergie had his fallings out with that player and his agent, and the lad went off to Juventus. But I thought when they signed Pogba back, that was a real slap in the face to Alex Ferguson. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just thought, I think that the Pogba issue is huge, because 100 million euros is what they paid. In fact, very little, relatively little went to Juventus. 25 million went to the agent. But as you say, this is a player that Ferguson had, and didn't have him for a week. He had him for 2 or 3 years, and he just thought he wasn't worth signing. He let him go for about 900,000 to Juventus, and bringing him back, which I think was Woodward's idea anyway. I think it was a statement signing. In other words, the spin on it was that it was between Real Madrid and Manchester United to get him. Well, I don't think, Liam, Real Madrid were ever in that race. And this lad, he's 25 last week. I mean, he's not a kid, but he plays like a kid. No, he
should be coming as a midfield player. He should be really coming into his prime. He certainly showed at Juventus where he fitted in, and he fitted into the style of play. That he was a top player, particularly in the season when they got to the Champions League final. However, going back to what I was saying, Eamon, Ferguson didn't want to give the guy the assurance that he would definitely play him and pay him what they wanted to pay. He couldn't do that. Ferguson, I don't think, trusted the lad, and you can see why.
Yeah.
Now it's gone full circle. He's back at Manchester United, and Mourinho's not picking him every time,
Yeah, he didn't
but this
play
is
him
after
against
spending
Seville.
£90 million on him,
Yeah, he didn't start against Seville, and he didn't start in the cup match of the weekend against Brighton. Now after
well, they said he was injured against Brighton, so you maybe have to excuse that. But there's been games, big games as well, Eamon, where he's been fit and sat on the bench.
Yeah,
and it's almost like Mourinho's saying, "Well, I can't trust this lad." After spending £90 million for him, that's quite incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible, yeah.